Ask yourself this question. Do you want mental health to be a public safety issue or a public health issue? Well, many people are trying to make it a public safety issue after the tragic shooting in Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. An editorial titled "Stricter Gun Laws Could Be Effective If Congress Passed Them." The author is trying to inform his readers on ways the government can step in and help prevent gun violence in the United States by enforcing stricter gun laws. And one of the ways he said the government can step in is by enhancing background check systems to search more thoroughly for mental illness and buyers of guns. However, I'm here to disagree with that idea. Stricter gun laws would not be effective even if the government enhanced background check systems to search more thoroughly for evidence of mental illness. It is difficult to predict if a person is at risk of violence, and it is against the law for a psychiatrist or a therapist to release confidential information about his or her client or patient. And I'm also going to give a real-life example why this is true. This brings me to my first point. It is difficult to predict if a person is at risk of violence. According to an article titled "Experts, Mental Health Gun Laws Likely" by S.E. Smith, mental health professionals point out that it is actually quite difficult to predict a risk of violence, and its studies, even those with special training, aren't necessarily very good at determining which patients will harm himself or others. And learning how to assess patients with violent tendencies actually takes years of training and practical experience. So that means you have to find therapists who have several years of experience, and this doesn't mean that they will find a person who indicates risk of violence, because there are no precise signs for this thing. And this also makes mental health a public safety issue rather than a public health issue. But this brings me to my second point. If a psychiatrist finds these tendencies in his patient, he is not able to disclose this information because it's against the law. The law titled Psychotherapy's Patient Privilege Law, which gives clients and patients the right to prevent the therapist from disclosing confidential information about themselves. And this law says the communication must be confidential, the therapist must be a licensed psychiatrist, and communication must occur in the course of diagnosis or treatment. So what this does is gives the therapist an obligation to withhold the information and keep his patient information safe. An example of this would be with Dr. Lynn Fenton. Dr. Lynn Fenton was James Holmes' psychiatrist. James Holmes was a gunman in the Aurora, Colorado, at the movie theater. After the incident, many people wanted to know why didn't the psychiatrist warn the authorities. Well, it's because she couldn't, because of that law. And when the media kept asking for it and asking for her information, an article titled "Document Altered Online in Aurora Shooting Case" by Clayton Sandel says, when Dr. Fenton finally released her notes about James Holmes on the internet, she blacked out key information. She did this so she would not lose her job or lose potential patients she may have in the future. The author wants the government to step in and enforce stricter. The author wants the government to step in and enhance its background check to check for mental illness. But it is difficult to predict if a person is at risk of violence, and then it's against the law for a therapist to disclose this. So in order for the government to do this, it has to alter laws it already has in place. So this is an act that is easier said than done.